Take a look at crude oil prices and natural gas. We have Joe Biden, who's pushing for green energy jobs as the way of the future. President Trump has also pushed very hard for coal to be revitalized. We do have crude oil down a fraction in the aftermarket to $40.99. Flip it over to natural gas, which is rising. But if you look at it historically, it is well off the highs from way back in 2008. Nat gas is $2.78 per million British thermal units. So as these two presidential candidates face off and Biden pushes green, President Trump's administration has pushed very much for crude and fracking, not to mention coal. What does that speak to for the future of U.S. energy consumption and energy businesses? Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette is in Erie, Pennsylvania, the heart of the Marcellus Shale, the largest natural gas field in the world. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much for joining us. This is a story of jobs. It's a story of clean air and water. It is a story, certainly, of big business and small business, emerging business. Tell us what you're doing there.
Hi, Liz. Well, it's great to be back with you. Yes, I'm here in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm here in a local union hall with the plumbers today. We're going to be with the steam fitters and the boilermakers, and we're going to be talking about their concerns and the potential lack of jobs if we eliminate some of the technologies that have made the United States the #1 producer of oil and gas in the world. I'm specifically talking about hydraulic fracturing, the technology that's produced such a boom in the natural gas field and in the crude oil field. I'm also here to talk about some of the job creation that's occurring in the country, and specifically here in the Marcellus Shale region. There's a giant ethane cracker facility that's being built just down the road here, and that facility will produce many of the plastic products that we take for granted in our lives today. You know, Liz, it's amazing when you look at the numbers. 96% of all of the manufactured goods in the world today have a direct connection to chemistry, and more specifically, chemistry that's related to the feedstock of natural gas. So a very important industry, very important to the economy, both here in Pennsylvania and to the rest of America.
Natural gas obviously burns way cleaner than coal. The Trump administration has spent a good bit of the first term really touting coal, even as many of these companies go out of business. A lot of coal workers say, you know what, I got to get trained into the jobs of the future. Let's talk about specifically the fracking jobs, and then we'll get to green jobs. And talk about what you see as this opportunity for fracking, specifically as it pertains to cleaner natural gas that burns cleaner.
Well, Liz, what we're seeing is a transition. You just mentioned the price of natural gas, and while it's up a little bit today because of the increased demand that's being created by this V-shaped recovery that we're experiencing, it is historically low. And as a result, we've seen a transition to its use for the provision or generation of electricity over coal in certain cases. But by no means does that mean the end of coal as we know it today. Perhaps it's used a little bit less to produce electricity, but it has a bright future in the sense that we can start to develop some of the rare earth elements that can be extracted from coal, which are very important for the production of grid-scale battery storage, and that's important to the renewable industry, the renewable electric industry. So still a very bright future. What we're concerned about here in Pennsylvania in particular is the potential elimination of fracking technologies, which produce that cheap gas in the first place. You know, Liz, I've been told by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that if we eliminate this technology, roughly 19 million jobs will be eliminated in America. Think about that. 19 million jobs eliminated as we attempt to recover from a pandemic.
Secretary, imagine that there are, and I know there are, undecided voters right now who lean toward President Trump, but they also lean toward the future. They want a clean planet. They don't like some of the decisions that the EPA under President Trump has made. And some of these people are, yes, they are Trump voters because they see what's been happening with their water beyond the let's plant a lot of trees, which we applaud certainly. How do you convince the undecided voter who leans toward solar, wind, and power to say, you know what, okay, he's got it. You know, all we hear is this dissing of green energy, you know, mocking of it. So clarify that for these particular viewers, if you could.
Well, I can't speak directly to the election, but I will tell you what the record is. The record in America is that we have produced all forms of energy, and that process, that record, that approach, that policy approach has produced an increase in our economic activity here of roughly 17%. And at the same time, we've reduced carbon emissions from energy sources by roughly 14%. So there's no country in the world who can make that claim credibly. I'll state it again. We've grown the economy by 17%, and we've reduced carbon emissions by 14%. There's certainly no signatory to the Paris Accords that can make that claim. So that is the record. Those are the facts. As we move forward, however, what we would like to do is to continue this all-of-the-above energy strategy that we've started. Yes, we want to pursue renewable energy. Yes, we want to pursue fossil energy development. Yes, we want to pursue nuclear energy development, which is emissions-free. It takes all of those things in order to produce the amount of energy that we need to grow this economy.
Okay. Secretary Dan Brouillette. We love our plumbers. Let me tell you something. They're hard to find in New Jersey. They're so busy. So thank everybody in Erie, Pennsylvania, and thank you for joining us right here on our Economic Undercard.